Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We're in the middle of something really powerful right now, our self-care sort of reset series. And listen, this is not your average surface level care. This is about the deeper stuff, the emotional fatigue, the relationships, the wear and tear, the way our bodies carry what we're afraid to say out loud. I think as women, especially as Black and brown women, we are we're just the ones to carry all the things, to hold all the things, even while we are just unraveling quietly on the inside. So this series is really your chance to pause, to breathe, to reset, and to hear from the voices that really get it and to get to the how, right? People always say self-care, do this, do that, but you don't always get the how. And today's episode, it's almost like a breakout session at a conference. And I want you to really treat it that way. It's the one that everybody wants to get to, except this one, you don't have to book the flight to get there. We are here. We're bringing it straight to you. It is premium level conversation, the kind you'd probably have to pay for in real life, right? You have to pay good money for this if you were staying with your therapist right now, but we have you. And today we're looking at how to protect your peace when you're still in a relationship, and probably a very unhealthy one. And we have with us today no other than the amazing Alicia Cruz, who's going to help us have that conversation. Her work is just brilliant, and not only in the space that she does in her work in Connecticut, she's also one of our retreat facilitators for Renew, Connect, Restore. And today she's bringing that same energy here to us. So whoop whoop, like, hey girl, hey, how are you?
I am doing amazing. I'm wonderful. I am so excited for one, this retreat coming up, and two, just to be here.
All the things. So can you just tell us
Oh.
just a smidge about you for the folks who don't know?
All right. I'm happy to. I am Alicia Cruz. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in Connecticut and also your betrayal trauma therapist. But my passion lies in helping people find themselves again after being in toxic and unhealthy relationships.
So we'll go right into that. Tell me what or how do we know that we're in like a toxic and unhealthy relationship?
I think, well, there's so much about out there about like maybe what the other person does in an unhealthy relationship, or maybe the antagonistic person, if there is one, or if you're not that person. But I think because there's so many signs, I really do focus a lot of my work on what is happening for you, the person in that relationship. We don't really care about the other person. We do, but we don't. So really the biggest thing is you got to shift the focus inward a little bit, and the biggest thing is focusing on what's happening for you emotionally. If you're finding yourself away from your baseline of maybe you're a little anxious sometimes or whatever, but if you're finding yourself emotionally drained or dysregulated, that is the biggest sign. Somebody that is good for you, you're going to, yeah, everybody's going to have arguments and things like that. But typically, if the relationship is healthy, your emotional level is there and regulated, and you are feeling good and at your best. You're not feeling crappy, to say it frankly.
Yeah, no, and that's big, right? So it's almost like let that feeling guide you. And I think sometimes we have to learn to trust that a little bit more because
Yes.
we start to like quiet that and we go with the other person, right? Do you kind of see that a lot with women in relationships?
I do. And I think that as women, we're really sometimes almost trained and brought up to be very forgiving
Mm,
and say like, oh, and sometimes make excuses for that person or just be very overly understanding, where sometimes
mm,
those people may not be towards you if the shoe is on the other foot.
mm,
But we are taught, I feel like a lot of women of color are
mhm,
taught to quiet those thoughts and those feelings that we have when
mm,
something is really wrong. We're taught to
mm.
quiet that intuition and to kind of stay silent and keep it pushing, right?
And really not trust it, right? I think in the process that teaches us not to trust ourselves. And I'm so with that. I think it starts early in life too, right? When we're kind of taught, and maybe not even intentionally, but where we are put in that position to put everyone else first, right? Whether it is like you're the older kid, hey, and you've got to watch all the siblings, right? Or your parents give
Yep.
you all these responsibilities, or the type of family that you're from, and that dynamic where it's like everybody else's needs come first. So that means you start to dismiss and diminish yours, and that same pattern of being probably follows us into adulthood.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does.
Mm,
And kind of going with that as well, like basing off of what you just said, if you are finding yourself kind of consumed with thoughts of that person or just consumed with being with them in one way or the other, now you gotta think of it two ways. One, it could be the other person's making you feel like you want to be with them all the time, or it could be you, right? Maybe there's some stuff that you haven't worked through yet that you do need to work on. Either way, whatever side of the spectrum that's on, that is still something to be aware of, because that's going to make your relationship unhealthy, whether it's because of your stuff or their stuff. Regardless, that's just another sign for me that I see quite frequently that needs to be addressed. Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who realizes they are in that toxic relationship but can't really leave yet?
It is so tough because this is where I see a lot of people fall into the category. You know, some of my own clients, my own friends, myself, I have been here too. And it's very hard because sometimes you just have to let people go through that. Because sometimes people are just not really in a space to listen to other people's input or just even listen to the realization that they're having that they are in a toxic relationship. So what I would say is have patience with yourself because this is a process. We are all human, nobody's perfect. And you know, you're still trying to navigate that. But at the same time, if you do realize that you are in a toxic relationship, it's not going to get better with you together. You do have to separate and kind of like be on your own. And that's not to say that people can't change because I'm a therapist. I would not, be in this field if I didn't think people can change. But I think when you're, constantly in that same environment or with that person, it's very hard to see things for what they are. So you do need to get some distance, whether it's emotionally or physically or what have you. You do have to find a way to create that space so that you can actually, look at a bird's eye view perspective of really what's happening. Because when you're in it, you can't see what's going on around you or the impact.
Yes, it's almost like you can't see your blind spots because you're so close, right? And I find that so valuable because I think that's really the benefit of working with somebody who is outside of the situation. Like when you bring an expert into the space, like yourself, right? When you're with a therapist, when you're with a coach, they can really help you see the things that you can't because you're sort of blinded, like by the emotion or by the dynamic. And I love what you're leaning towards, which is like, how do we put distance so we can start to see that? And I love that. And if you could talk about that a little bit more, like how can someone start creating these like emotional boundaries to protect their peace, right? And I think both in and outside of the relationship, because again, some of us may not be able to leave for various reasons.
Correct.
I think when I think about toxic relationships, I don't even think just partner to partner. I feel like that's evident in families, right?
Friendships, yes.
Right.
Everywhere. Yes.
Everywhere at work, right? I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, wow, they work fired you like you were the mistress. They put you out, right? After years of
Yeah.
being there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, even that work can become this like toxic dynamic. Like you feel like you're okay, everything is flowing, then something changes, and it's a drop of a hat. So many people are in different variations of relationships, but having the same experience. So how do they create space? How do they start to develop better boundaries?
Yeah, sure. I have to say, like, it is a very difficult process to start creating those emotional boundaries while you're in it.
Right.
Not to say that it can't be done, but it's just the work's a little bit harder. So, there's a lot of reasons why people stay connected to these relationships, right? Could be financial reasons, like even at work, like, oh, I need this job, I got to stay here. And even
Facts. I can't be broke.
exactly. So, all of that is fine. And, we can't, the biggest thing, you can't judge yourself because you are where you are. But really the biggest shift that I think that's super important to start creating these emotional boundaries is to shift your focus back to you. Again, it all comes back to you. You have to stop worrying about the other person and what they're doing, what their moves are, whatever, whatever. You have to shift that focus back to you and think about, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I am feeling emotionally regulated throughout the day? What do I need to do to make sure that I make myself feel good today? Like it is really, truly almost kind of examining everything that is going wrong or that's negative about that relationship and honestly doing the exact opposite and finding ways to support yourself. So
Wow. I love that. And bringing the focus back to you, coming back home to you. I love that because one of like the messaging for our retreat this year, coming back home to self. And so key because we lose ourselves so quickly and we don't always realize it, right? Even in what feels like a good situation or even in unhealthy dynamics too. But I want to keep like pushing the limit here. So how do we do that like concretely, right? So if you had to give us some really practical tips of how to do that, how to create that emotional safety, how to help us get grounded, how to help us like create that space. What do you got in your toolbox? Shake it up and give us
okay,
out. Shake it up.
Well, you know I love emotional release, and that is my
Baby, you are the
jam.
queen of release.
That's right. So, of course, I can't leave here without talking about getting that shit off your chest, right? So, step number one, honestly, this has to be it. Find somebody to talk to, whether it is a therapist, your best friend, whatever, somebody that you feel like is a listening ear that can listen without judgment. Obviously, the best place to do that, I think, is therapy because they're completely a neutral zone. But if you, for some reason, can't get there, find somebody that is very close to you and let them know what you feel is happening in your relationship because really a lot of these abuse thrives in silence. Abuse thrives when we're not sharing. And if somebody knows the situation that you're in, whether or not, they're just listening and they're not contributing anything to the conversation, at least they know. And you have somebody, one, to check on you, two, to maybe bounce ideas off of. And, obviously there has to be some boundaries there because sometimes people tend to kind of lean heavily on that person, but that's something you'll still be working on your own end on that front. But if you have somebody that knows where you are in this relationship, in life, whatever, what's going on, you have somebody that's a little bit of an anchor that can kind of pull you out when you undoubtedly are feeling overwhelmed and drowning because the waves of these relationships, the cycles of the emotions go up and down. And some days you're feeling good and you've got it handled, and then other days you're not, but that person will be there. Now, the other thing that you really got to do is honestly figure out a way, besides that person, you have to figure out a way to get those thoughts and emotions and feelings off your chest. Of course, I'm going to recommend journaling, which a lot of people really dislike. It doesn't have to be journaling, but the reason I love journaling, or at least doing a brain dump or something like that, you need to see physically what the thoughts are that are going on in your head. You're kind of hearing them throughout the day when you're having conversations with yourself, this, that, and the third. But when you are writing stuff down and you look back at it, that also creates that distance that I was talking about earlier. You're kind of able to see exactly what's going on in your head, and you can process it in a different way than just you having a conversation with yourself or somebody else. It's a very concrete way to see that. And then if you have a therapist or not, maybe you can go through those and do some CBT exercises to kind of change the thoughts and feelings, but that's not necessary at this point. You just got to get it out and see it visually. So
Wow. Okay. So I love it. You came hard. You came correct. Some really, really dope stuff. And I love it. It's like, how do you change what you don't know and what you can't see? Right. So like, let's stop running from it and put it on the table and get it out there and really, really practical tips and approaches. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Appreciate you always. If you guys love this, make sure you let us know in the chat wherever you're listening to this. If you want to, please leave your questions. We'll try to get back to it. I already know that y'all are going to want to run this back. So here's what I suggest. Really slow this down and listen to it again. Let the gems really land for you. Let them just kind of settle into that mind body there. Let it speak to where you are right now and just go back and see how does this apply for me? What's the one thing I want to work on today? Maybe you come back and you grab another little piece, right? Because change doesn't happen just by hearing it. It happens when we revisit it, when we reflect it, and we start applying what we hear in real time, right? So if this is just it for you, you're like, wow, oh, yes, and you need more of this, we definitely want to invite you to do this in person with us too, right? Our retreat is coming up, Renew, Connect, Restore. It's our annual retreat for women of color to just come back home to ourselves. And we started to talk about that today. How do we create space so we could see ourselves again and come back? That's what that whole experience is. It's like this full body exhale place to just elevate that woman that you are becoming. So if that work speaks to you, come on in, right? When we heal, when we connect, when we restore, when we do that together, we really shift. We shift who we are. We shift, the spaces that we're in, and things just don't face us the same. So check out that retreat. Alicia will also be there. I'll be there. It's a great space for you. And of course, if you have questions, drop it. Follow Alicia, follow the both of us, and let's really stay connected. And we'll see you guys soon. Take care.